Hi, Shelly. How are you?
Hi, Davin. How are you?
I am doing fantastic. It is so great to see you. I am super excited for people to hear your story and share your mindset with those listening today. For those of you listening today, we're here with Shelly Rood. Shelly Rood is an amazing human being. She's become a great close friend. She is the creator of Mission Ambition. She's the founder of that organization and a champion of the others over self mindset, a military veteran, nationally renowned speaker. And so people are probably right off the bat are saying, oh my gosh, where'd you get the others over shelf shirts? What's the others over shelf mindset? So Shelly, please take us. I want people to get to know you. I want them to get to know what the others over self mindset is. I want them to get to know mission ambition and who you are and the impact that you're making. So take us back to wherever you want behind the history of this entire movement you've created and this message.
Thank you so much, Davin. It's such a joy to be here. And I have to say that I know some of my favorite people in the world are listening, and that fills me with joy. It's really hard to talk about myself. So I think that we can start with the message, right? And what exactly it is that we're here to kind of impress on everybody today. I think that God works in crazy ways. And in my life, there's definitely a pattern where he plants a seed and then 10, 20 years later, he comes back around and he's like, hey, Shelly, what'd you do with that seed that I planted? Right. And you're like, oh, crap, I don't know. Sometimes you don't even see that it got planted at the beginning. So I think you're going to find a lot of parallels as we continue this conversation today. I'm a Detroiter in my heart. I love Detroit. I was born and raised here, Harrison Township, right on the outside. My grandfather actually was an immigrant, came over in the boat from what is now known as Belarus. And he was lost at sea essentially when my grandmother and their daughter came over. They were shot down and they floated in the icy waters for a long time. They were eventually rescued and brought to the United States. So when you hear me talk about Detroit and America and, you know, the promise of being able to build something great with your life, it comes from a personal place for us. I still live in Detroit. I actually purchased my grandparents' home after they had passed. So my sons, plural now, they're the fourth generation to live in that home. And that's really, it's just amazing this day and age to watch my new little baby crawling around on the parquet floor that my grandfather laid. You know, to have that in your life is just really something special. And so I think that you never see that seed that's planted until years and years of development come. And then you have that moment. So I'm hoping that we connect with some of those moments today. You know, Mission Ambition is a company that I knew I always wanted to have my own business because my father did, my grandfather did, but I didn't know what kind of business to run. So, you know, went to college, Western Michigan University, Broncos, and ended up joining the rifle team. Had never shot anything before in my life. Got a bullseye when he said, here's how to hold it. Maybe you should join the team, Shelly. Ended up being the captain and doing great things there. And then through that, I actually got to know the kids, the young ladies and gentlemen that were doing ROTC, and witnessing their character of who they were as young men and women. I was raised with that same mindset of it's not about what should you do, it's about what should you be. And I immediately felt like I needed to be with them and follow them. So I did elect to join the military. I served 16 years as an Army Reserve soldier. I served in the intelligence field. I got out as a captain just a couple years ago. And throughout that experience, you know, it shaped and changed me in a million ways. You know, I'll tell you, with all of the political stuff going on right now, bear with me. I love my country. I do not worship my country. There's so much going on. It's really about who we are as human beings and what our character is calling us to do. So in the professional world, you know, left college, I worked in broadcast television for a while. I worked in radio for a while, always had management positions. I left TV and I went into the fitness industry. I have a love for CrossFit and lifting heavy things, believe it or not. So kind of figured out that industry, you know, and then when it came to the time to open my business, had to make a decision. And right in that formative moment, God spoke to me and said, Shelly, I think maybe you should think about ministry or joining the clergy. Whoa, whoa, whoa. That's crazy talk. I'm, you know, rifle team Shelly. I'm like the biggest sinner out there. Are you kidding? And so that was a path. And I'm still walking that path. It's been many years, but I am. Well, I'll tell you this. So how we got here, how Mission Ambition actually started, is because I had what they call a pseudo tumor, but a fake tumor. My body grew behind my eye. And because of that, I lost depth perception. A lot of my vision was impaired. And it literally brought me home, forced me to have that moment. Shelly, where's your company? Shelly, where's that blog you've always wanted to write? Right? You do it now because you can do it with one eye, but it's going to be really hard. And that's the catalyst. And that's where Mission Ambition started. Now, the others over self philosophy, I know we're going to get into it, but we've been trying to figure out what Mission Ambition really is all about and what it stands for. And it's taken us years, honestly, to really discern, to make sure that we're not putting a cause over our faith and our beliefs and what it is that we feel that we bring to the world. And others over self was the very first statement that we ever used in alignment with the company. And here we are trying to figure out, who are we? Oh, well, maybe we should just go back to the beginning, huh?
Imagine that.
Yeah. So, you know, married, 2 little boys, definitely can connect with a lot of people from a lot of different backgrounds.
So good. I mean, that's a powerful testimony in a short time. And a couple of things that you said there that I really loved. I love that you said that we often ask ourselves, who do we want to, or what do we want to do? And the question isn't what do we want to do? It's who do we want to be, right? There's a difference between doing and being, and purpose is really about being. It's about using what you were created for to impact others, which really naturally transitions into your others over self mindset. And I remember when you came into our office one day and we kind of whiteboarded out a lot of this, and we were like, what really is mission ambition, and what is the purpose? Let's go back to the beginning of what is the purpose point, if you will, of mission ambition. What's the impact that you want to have? And I just learned something today that I didn't know in that conversation. I didn't know that really what was behind this was you had all of these things that were seeds that were already planted in you, that you knew that you wanted to not just do, that you wanted to be, but you hadn't done them. And so here came this catalyst moment, and, you know, God telling you, Shelly, what have you done? Where's this mission that I gave you? Where was your ambition to actually make this stuff happen? And
it was in the belly of the whale.
Right. That's exactly right. And you, for those of you listening, that's a Jonah reference. But for you, what I love is that you could have easily made that about you, and you didn't. You took that and said, I wonder how many other people out there have dreams and goals and desires that God has placed in their heart that are an essential piece of the purpose that they were created for, but they're not living them and they're not fulfilling them. How do I help them? And that's where really mission ambition came from, and where your mission field was identified. And then you ask yourself, what is going to be the mantra that's going to guide us along the way? And it was others over self.
You know, when for some reason God works in 10-year time spans for me. And when I was first in the military, I was down in Louisiana doing disaster relief for Hurricane Katrina. And then literally 10 years later, I was sent on another mission to that exact same port. And I had the opportunity to walk the same streets, and I was a completely different person. And I have character today that I didn't have 10 years ago. And I wish so badly that I would have had a mentor, a guide, a school, some professional development training, something that would have gotten me here quicker. You know, I don't regret life because life makes you who you are. But of course, I think I didn't have to fall so hard so many times along the way. Maybe I, could have just had like a little bit straighter of a path.
Yeah, right. There's our plan, right? And then there's God's plan, which is, kind of all over here. And it's great to be able to have people to shepherd us through those times. And, a lot of times it takes courage to ask for help. We don't want to ask for help. We think we can do it ourselves. We don't recognize that there are others out there who can help us. That's the pride piece, right? Pride is often the greatest thing that gets in the way of really us fulfilling our purpose. But one of the things that I really want you to expand on, if you could, is, people hear this stuff and a lot of times it sounds fluffy, right? Like others over self. That's a great mindset. Yeah, we know we've heard that our entire lives. Treat others how you want to be treated, golden rule, all of these things, be selfless. But I think one of the, first of all, hardest things to do, but also probably the most worthy things to do, is really to truly champion the others over self mindset, which you do so well. And a lot of times it's not discovered until you're doing something like walking the streets of Louisiana after Katrina. It's not discovered unless you go on a missions trip. It's not discovered and a lot of people are sitting here saying, well, I didn't go, I didn't have that experience. I didn't have that transformational moment that brought me outside of myself to truly serve others. How does the everyday individual, the everyday person, because look, my kids do this, right? I have a 10-year-old and I have I'm soon to be 7-year-old. And every day we just got a brand new puppy. They're fighting over who gets to play with.
Yes,
Blanchard,
I've seen the pictures.
Right? He's adorable. We love him. But right off the bat, we're like, oh, this is going to be a great joy connection point in our home. And right off the bat, they're fighting over who gets time with him. We are innately selfish. So how do you not only champion the others over self mindset? How does the everyday person develop that to begin with? Where do you start?
Yeah. So you start by saying what you just said. Every human being is selfish. You have to know that. You have to genuinely take that finger in the mirror, right, that you point out and put it back at yourself. And you have to say, Shelly, you are so selfish. Get off the couch, turn off the TV, and go do the dishes, right? Shelly, you are so selfish. Put down the plate of lasagna and go eat a salad. Shelly, you are so selfish. Take your kid to the class because he needs that influence in his life. I don't know where along the line we transition from child to adult, but when you're in the child mindset, it is all about me, right? I have a newborn. I'm exhausted right now. We're up all the time. And when you're a child, it's me, right? And you don't appreciate your parents or your teachers. You don't appreciate anybody who's pouring into you. There has to be a transitional period where you become an adult, where you become a morally and ethically responsible adult that has walked a bridge. And then that journey doesn't stop. Ever. Paul would tell us that the older we get, the more sinful we get. He realizes that as he's aging in life, as he's walking closer with his maker, he's learning how deeply, deeply, deeply sinful he is. And if we, even as non-believers, can grasp this idea that human beings are inherently selfish, then we have to take these acid tests or look at ourselves over and over and over again and think, what could I do to be one step further? We have really identified 3 vital areas that the adults need to be working on. Everyone always tells me, Shelly, you should work with the kids. Well, they have Dr. Seuss, okay? I am calling you out as adults, as professional adults who don't have the potential to change or better the world. We literally are the ones taking those actions every day. So there's 3 vital areas that we as adults should be self-engaging in. And this is our character, our conduct, and our moral vision. And if you have questions or maybe just don't feel really good in your seat about any of those 3 areas, that's a good thing. Okay. If you feel really good about who your character is and you feel like, oh, look at me, I behave great every single day, right? That's a problem. Because you might think your conduct and your character is beautiful, let's go ask some people around us, right? Somebody's going to be brave enough to help maybe correct our behaviors. So it has to start there, right? It's this idea of humbleness, of admitting that we are totally broken. We are very, very selfish. We are very sinful. Oh my gosh. And then we have a chance, right? You have to be coachable. Then we have a chance to really sit down and break through pride and break through all these other things that are keeping us from what we're really supposed to be, right? Not what should I do? We're not talking about our day-to-day actions necessarily. We're talking about what you should be. Because if you know who you want to be, then the choices and those actions that you make every day, they're a lot better, right? If you say, I want to be a healthier person, I don't want to be on blood pressure medication. Okay, now we know what you should do, but it has to start with who you want to be.
So good. I think that we are almost, we're two things, right? We're wired, obviously, to focus on ourselves and be selfish, as you just said. And that was such a great, I love those 3 points that you just outlined. Those, say them again. Say the 3 points again.
Your character,
Character,
your conduct, and your moral vision.
And I think a lot of times when it comes to those things, we are driven initially by self motives. But the other piece of that is we're task focused. We're constantly saying, what do we want to do? We don't ask ourselves, who do we want to be, which is ultimately the root of purpose. Purpose is your reason for being. Your why is your reason for doing. And so we have different things that motivate us. We have different whys that are the reason we do things. But ultimately, our purpose is our reason for being. And so we constantly need to be asking ourselves, who is it that we want to be? But then using the others over self mentality, who are we helping others become, right? That's really the ultimate measure of purpose is, okay, we need to become this so that we can help others become who they were created to be. That really is our purpose, even on a day-to-day basis.
So I'll give you a very personal lesson that I'm walking through with my family right now. My son is misbehaving a little bit at school. And everybody tells me I have such potential and I could be such a great leader. Why do they keep saying that? I don't want to lead. You don't have that choice. Every human being is a follower, and every human being is a leader, whether you realize it or not. Maybe I don't want to be a leader, but that doesn't stop people from following me. Good behavior, bad behavior, it doesn't matter. They're going to follow whether you like it or not.
That is exactly. We were I had breakfast with a good friend of mine this morning. His name's Dwight, and literally just had this conversation this morning. And we were talking about how leadership is influence. And people are saying, I don't want to be a leader. I want to be a leader. Everybody is a leader. The reality is if you influence others, you are a leader. The question is, what are you leading them to? You could be leading someone towards bad habits or bad behaviors or whatever, just because of your actions and how you conduct yourself, right? Your conduct, and because of your moral character, whatever that is, however you are leading yourself, you are inherently leading those around you who might be following you. And so leadership is tied to influence, good or bad. We always say leader. I mean, leadership inherently, we try to say is a good word, but realistically, there's good and bad leadership. And
Hitler was an amazing leader.
Right?
I mean, literally one of the best in the world. And he believed that his actions were sanctioned, by divinity. So,
right. So it's very, very critical. I mean, that we identify, not just call people to leadership, but call people to good leadership, which is truly focused on others over self. You also mentioned humility. Probably my favorite quote about humility is from C.S. Lewis, where he says that true humility is not thinking less of ourselves. It's thinking about ourselves less. Again,
there you go.
Others over self mindset, right? We think that humility means tearing ourselves down. People compliment us and we say, oh, no, I'm not that good at this or whatever. We basically tell them they're wrong when they compliment us, which is not a good thing.
That's perfect, Davin, right there, because when we are corrected, we feel like heartbroken that we disappointed somebody. Good, right? Like, Davin, I'm sure that I have disappointed you in some way in our short relationship here, right?
Never.
Good. I'm so glad that you're disappointed in me. I mean, honestly, right? Because I am inherently sinful, inherently broken. And if you put me on a pedestal and think that Shelly Rood is so amazing, she's never going to let you down, then what does that do? All of a sudden now, I'm just going to fall on my face. So if you're really going to care for other people and serve other people, you have to accept the fact that they are broken, that other people are going to let you down. Right? Let's say it aloud. Other people are going to let you down. So when it happens, it doesn't mean that you cut them and get rid of them and, stomp all over them. Oh my gosh, no, you're just as broken as they are. So we work with them and we talk about the values and the morals and the ethics, and we learn, right? Like, raising a kid, I tell you what, is the most amazing thing, because it puts us back in that kid mindset. And you can't tell your kid a lesson and then be a hypocrite and not follow that moral value yourself. Okay. I say I can't, but like most of the people do, don't we?
Right. And it's amazing what lessons that could teach us, right? I mean, our kids are a little bit older, but we have 2 kids, but we do have a new puppy, which is like a newborn, right? And so I feel like we're constantly asking ourselves, why do our kids keep on doing what we tell them not to do? Like, why don't they listen, right? Why does the new puppy continue to do, like, it's biting everything right now, eating the carpet, furniture, right? And it's like, no, let go. Like, why does it keep doing the things that we tell it not to do? And we sit here like we're on this pedestal, like we never, like, we don't do that. No, God's sitting there going, Davin, why do you keep on doing what I tell you not to do? Shelly, why do you keep on doing what I mean, Paul talks about this in Romans 7. Why do I keep on doing the things that I know I shouldn't do? And why don't I do
what
the
do we
things
say?
that I
We
know
say,
that I should
because
do?
God,
Right?
you gave me free will.
Right.
That's why.
So
yeah, next time one of your, staff members or teammates or something does what you told them not to do, give them grace. They have free will. It's not because they hate you and they're being purposefully rebellious or manipulative, right? That's Satan talking, honestly. You have to get over all of that garbage and that drama and be respectful of the fact that they have free will. They are broken. Let's just try to work with them a little bit and maybe we can correct that behavior.
But wait, Shelly, this is coming from rifle military Shelly. Aren't there times that you just fire people and just let them go and just, hey, you're out, right? You can't just give grace all the time.
You're right. You absolutely do. And you make that path very, very clear, right? You get 3 options, right? We're going to do this, we're going to do this, and we're going to do this, or you're going to lose your job. And they agree. So you give them a beautiful path to follow. And if they choose through their actions not to follow the path that was laid out in front of them and the consequence that waits them, then you're right. That's on them at that point. But I love that you mentioned this, Davin. What Mission Ambition, what makes us unique is that we are built on public servants. We are a nation of firefighters and veterans and police officers. We are the ones that at one point in time took an oath to serve others, to put the others over ourselves. It doesn't mean that we feel that same way now. What we're seeing across our nation with our police force, for instance, is they're walking out. We're seeing a spike in retirement. We're seeing a spike in people just dropping and walking away, right? They don't even care if the benefits are there anymore. They're done. They're not necessarily burned out. They're just like flat. I mean, they're almost like a black hole, even where it's going the opposite way. How does that happen, right? Every single one of us, I think, at our life, at some point, we can become that black hole. And it's very important that we re-engage this ancient wisdom of serving others, re-engage with it. When I hear of a police officer that is retiring before and is not going to get the things that they set out to do, and it's just because they're so exhausted and they're really concerned about, what am I going to be now? I'm just going to be some retired person with nothing else to give to the world. The answer is no. The answer is come to me, work with me. We will crack open that brain of those amazing experiences and stories. The stories are hilarious, by the way. And we're going to take all of that content and we're going to build out a professional development course for people, because what you have is valuable and the world will benefit from what's inside of your head. You just need to say yes, right? You need to be open to the idea.
That's exactly right. That's so good. So good. And this message of grace is so important right now, especially in the climate that we're in. You just talked about, people walking away, police officers walking away, first responders walking away, people just kind of giving up this black hole mentality of just kind of things being sucked out. Well, what's being sucked out is purpose. They're losing sight. I mean, people don't do things necessarily anymore for a paycheck or perks. They do it for the purpose. They do it for the impact that they want to create. And when that impact is no longer recognized or appreciated, then they lose sight of their purpose, then they lose their motivation. They lose their why for what they wanted to be in the first place. Why should I be in service to others if others are not going to recognize that if I was doing it for them? And, one of the things that, coming back to the grace point, and of course, obviously I was being facetious earlier when I was saying, wait, don't you just fire people?
Sometimes you do.
Sometimes, right? Sometimes it happens. But my pastor a long time ago in fact, I remember the date exactly. We were having lunch at Sajo's in 2010. And I was struggling with a couple key people on our team, not at Purpose Point at that time, in a different company that I was working for, that I felt like I was just telling them to do the same thing over and over. And then they just weren't doing it, right? And it wasn't malicious. It was just there was no accountability. So the behavior continued. And so, I said, how much grace can I possibly extend, right? I mean, 7 times, 77 times. Does that sound familiar? And he said, well, I think you have a misconceived notion of what grace is. And this was the first time I had heard this statement. He said, grace is giving others what they don't deserve. Mercy is not giving others what they do deserve. And we need to balance grace and mercy. Sometimes the very idea of grace is the idea of serving others when they don't deserve it. It's giving others what they don't deserve. I think a lot of times people misconstrue grace with mercy, which is not giving people what they do deserve. And there's an extent to that. They're saying, okay, well, listen, if you didn't do this, and this, there's a consequence to that, right? If my kids continue to disobey, I'm going to continue to show them grace and love, whether they deserve it or not, because I'm their father. But there are consequences to certain actions, and there's an extent to mercy if those things continue to get violated. And so we need to distinguish those two things. And I think right now, we need to show grace to everybody. We always need to show grace to everybody. We also need to show mercy, but there's also an extent to those things.
And you have to remember too, how much is within our control. And if you believe that there is an afterlife, then they will get theirs. So is it going to do you any good, right? To not give forgiveness and to hold up these negative feelings and refuse to have that conversation? Is it going to do you any good in this life, right? I mean, they're going to get theirs. If you believe that, if you believe in the afterlife, then you also have to believe in letting go a little bit. And you don't need to be the one to necessarily give the consequence. You just need to be the one to give the love. And that's the beautiful juxtaposition, right? I mean, you remember the phrase fire and brimstone? The fire and brimstone preachers of old, where they would stand up on the pulpit and say, you're going to go to hell if you don't da, right? Fire and brimstone is not a bad thing. And that's what I love about this, right? I'm not up here preaching flowers. I'm not up here preaching everybody needs to get along. I'm talking about you in your heart. How are you moving forward? What are you hoping to get out of this interaction? Is that the right thing? Right? And then the challenge, because so few people will actually accept the challenge, right? There has to be strong people like me that are willing to be like, come on now. Do you need to eat that donut? Do you? Otherwise, what do we have? We have just a mess of gluttony and sin, and nobody's held accountable for anything. And I don't think that's what this world is meant to be.
No, it's not. And we need people to hold us accountable. Sometimes the hardest thing to do. I was talking with one of our clients today, and we were giving them some very candid feedback. And he said, sometimes you just need to have the courage to tell someone their baby's ugly. So we thank you for telling us that. They were talking about, and I was like, whoa. And the other guy on the call said, well, you just became a parent. I think you need to drop that analogy. I would never tell someone that their baby's ugly, but I mean, that's an extreme example. But sometimes we need people to tell us, I couldn't believe he used that analogy. It was funny in the moment, but sometimes we just need to tell people, have people tell us the truth. We need people to tell us not what we want to hear, but what we need to hear in order for us to become who we want to become. So going back kind of full circle, if we're focused on who it is we want to be, not necessarily what it is we want to do, we need to figure out who we're doing it for and who we're going to serve. So that's connected to our why. But then we need to surround ourselves with others that are going to give us grace and mercy, but tell us truth and love to shape us. We need that accountability. We need people to call us out when we are not making the decisions that we need to make to operate in the fullness of who we're created to be.
Do you know, one of my favorite life lessons comes from Abraham Lincoln? Such a smart man. Abraham Lincoln is a man who took up a cause, right? The cause of freedom. And he was not popular for his stance, but he held it. He was elected into office. And who did he fill his cabinet with? He did not fill it with a bunch of yes men. He went out to his opponents and he offered them all positions within his cabinet. Abraham Lincoln does not need yes men around him. You need to be Abraham Lincoln. You need to be willing to bring your opponents in, because collaboratively together, he understood that the shared mindset would help him get to his goal better than just his own brain. That is so hard to do. I know that I am preaching to the choir of amazing business people and leadership, and I agree with you. It is so hard to do. You know that one person in that meeting that you wish you could just clip out of Zoom? Do we have to invite so-and-so, right? They're not on the same page as us. I'm tired of hearing their opinions. Yes, you need them in the meeting because they're making you develop a better product, right? That's the whole idea of competition. It's proven. If you don't have competition, you're not as good as you can be. You have to have that level of competition there.
That's so good. Competition really is the key to effective collaboration. You know, I love the Abraham Lincoln perspective. I think there's a couple other quotes we've all heard, right? If I'm the smartest person in the room, I'm in the wrong room.
Wrong room.
Right?
Especially if you're in there with me.
Right? None of us are as smart as all of us, right? I mean, these are things that we've heard, but again, our natural inclination is to flip the equation that's on our shirts. Our natural inclination is to put ourselves over others. And the key to operating in the fullness of our purpose individually and as a leader is to constantly challenge ourselves and surround ourselves with others who will challenge us to put others over ourselves. So good. I can't wait. I know that we are coming to the end of our time here, Shelly, and I'm excited because I know that in May you're going to be sharing at the Purpose Summit. I know that there'll be another message that comes out here probably in the next couple weeks and months around this, but it's February and we have months until May. And as we learned last year, the world can change in a matter of days, if not minutes. So what would you say if you would just share maybe even a glimpse into what you might speak about at the summit in May? What would you say to those listening right now as we wrap up so that they can walk away from this conversation and implement this others over self mindset right now and to do the things they need to do to be who it is they want to be?
You have to know where you stand. Insert any number of silly quotes. If you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything, da, 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 da. You have to know where you stand on that moral vision piece of it. You have to know how far you're willing to push that limit before you say, whoa, too far. Once you know where you stand, then you cannot compromise. And that's a hard thing to do. You might lose your job. You might lose a very important member of your inner circle, but you cannot be willing to compromise. And then you have to find people that will support you. You're going to have a huge circle of negative people against you, and you're going to have a tiny circle of people who are with you. I think most people think that that is backwards, right? We think, oh, I'm doing such a great thing. Everybody's going to be on my side. No, right? Because people are selfish. People want to be against you. So you have to find that little tiny inner circle, go after them. Go after them. Take the initiative. Send them a message. Hey, you sound awesome. Do you want to be friends? It's not weird. Do it. Invite somebody into your inner circle. I need an accountability partner. You and I are like-minded. Let's do it, right? You and me, Davin, we're like-minded. Let's do it, right? That's not fighting who we're trying to be. I'm not trying to compete with you. We call this a shared mission. So between now and the summit, what I want you to do is figure out where you stand and where you refuse to compromise. And then I challenge you to find somebody who has a shared mission. And then I want you to take that step of seeing how you can collaborate or work together. And if you don't know how to phrase it, it goes like this. Hey, so-and-so, I'm so-and-so. I love what I see on your website. I'm thinking that we could work together to further our joint missions. Would you like to talk? It's not hard.
So simple.
It's just scary. It's just scary.
Well, I applaud you for having the courage to not only just say that, but live that, because we wouldn't even be having this conversation if you didn't do that, right? You reached out and you said, hey, Davin, I'm so-and-so, and looks like there's a shared mission here and would love to figure out how we can make a greater impact together. And, what's happened over the last several months since we've gotten to know each other and become friends and our teams have started to work together has already started to make such a great impact. And so none of that would have happened if you didn't do what you just told others to do. So Shelly's just not preaching here. She is walking the walk. She lives this out. It is literally the essence behind everything she does.
Well, also that way, right? Love your enemies more. So now you don't know where you stand with me. It's great. It's like the best.
Am I an enemy? Wait. So am I a friend or are you keeping me close? I need to understand where I stand.
No, you'll never know.
So funny. Well, I appreciate your time today. I'm so grateful for you. I really am. Tell people where they can find you. Where can they get these cool Others Over Self shirts? I'm ordering a ton of these for our team because it's such an important message. But how can they engage with you? How can they engage with Mission Ambition? How can they engage with this Others Over Self mindset?
It's so easy. There's this thing called Google, and you type in my name, Shelly Rood, R-O-O-D, Shelly Rood, or you Google Mission Ambition, and you're going to get missionambition.org, and you're going to get shellyrood.com. And that's where you're going to get connected to everything. My ask for this audience is if you love the shared message that Davin and I have, if you would like to have us in your inner circle, then please sign up for the Mission Ambition newsletter. And I'll make sure that you're getting resources, tips, and tools to help keep you mission ready.
Awesome. Shelly, thank you so much for giving so much of yourself today and of your time. Thank you for all that you've done for others, continue to do for others, for all that you've done for our country in the 16 years you served in the military. And thank you for championing this Others Over Self mindset. Truly one of your biggest fans, and grateful that you spent time with us today. Really grateful.
Davin, you are worth it. Honestly, you are very worth it.
So such a good message. We're all very worth it. Even those listening to you, you are worth it. Those listening to this right now, you are worth it. So don't just go and be, right?
Yes, people are watching whether you like it or not.
That's right.
I'm watching you. I'm secret intelligence. I'm always watching you.
But we're watching you and we're cheering for you. Right?
Yes.
We're in your corner. Although I might not be in Shelly's because she didn't just tell me whether I'm her enemy or her friend based off.
You'll never know.
I'll never know. I don't know. We're all in your corner. You can do this. Go and be. Shelly, thank you again. Appreciate your time today. Thank you everyone for listening again to the Finding Purpose Livecast. We will see you again next Wednesday, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with another thought leader, another author, another person who is going to help you fulfill the purpose that you and your organization were created for. Until next time on the Finding Purpose Livecast.